All righty, guys. Joining us now on the line is a gentleman that I consider it an honor and a privilege to have on the show. Somebody that I can't believe it's taken us as long as it has to get on the show. That is a true legend in the world of professional wrestling, and I'm hoping a 2011 WWE Hall of Famer, the one and only Sir Oliver Humperdink. Sir, are you still with us?
I am indeed. Good to be with you.
It's great to have you on the show, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, it's my pleasure.
All righty. So coming up real soon, you got, actually it's coming up in the first week of August. It looks like August 5th through the 8th.
Yep.
It's the NWA Legends Fest weekend, and I'm sure that a lot of the guys are getting together. I've read the roster that they have, and this is one of the more impressive rosters they've had in recent years.
Yeah, it's a great lineup. It's going to be held in Charlotte, North Carolina, like you said, the weekend of August 5th through 8th. If you've never been, geez, you're missing something. You got to come down and check it out. If you've been before, there's nothing I have to say to you, because, there's people that have been to, I think this is the 8th one. There's people that have been to every one of them.
Yeah.
They come back year after year and make friends, and, it's a great time. I'm really, really, really pleased to be a part of it. And Greg Price down there in Charlotte does a wonderful job.
Absolutely. It's, you get everything there. You get to meet all these legendary figures of professional wrestling, as well as there's a lot of great vendors there, too. You can buy some really rare merchandise that you're not going to get anywhere else. So, I mean, really... You're
talking about just legends, but there's a lot of guys from the current scene that are going to be there, like Phil Shatter's going to be there. Mm-hmm. He's got a big wrestling show, too. Chase Stevens will be there, Caprice Coleman, Roughhouse Ryan O'Kelly. So it's a mixture of the legends of the sport and the present-day stars of the sport.
And how do you like getting out there and getting to see the guys again that you maybe managed back in the day or around back in the day?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's really wonderful. It's a chance for us to get together. Like you say, we spend so much of our lives together, either traveling or sitting in dressing rooms or in the ring, It's good to see everybody after a long time. And with these guys, it's like just picking it up like you saw them yesterday,
And a lot of fans that saw, your WWF stuff might not realize that you spent almost 30 years in our crazy business.
Absolutely, yeah. I was with the NWA most of that time, and also with WCW, and then a rather short stint with WWE, but pleasant nonetheless.
Pleasant nonetheless, and exactly. And it's really a shame that a lot of people remember, I don't know if it's because of WWE 24/7 or things like that, but when I've announced that you were going to come on the show, a lot of people talked about your managing Bam Bam Bigelow and your time in the WWF, and my thoughts is, when I hear Oliver Humperdink, the first thing I think of is Gordon Soley's voice announcing you.
Yeah, exactly. I spent a lot of time with Gordon down in the Florida area for Eddie Graham. First time I was down there was like 1974, and off and on throughout the years, it was kind of like a home base for me, I go other places, but I'd always end up back in Florida.
You did, and that seemed to be, I just recently, I'm flipping a lot of my old tapes over to DVD and things that I taped when I was coming up and really growing up and really loving this stuff. And I've been watching some of the Battle of the Belt stuff that you were on, and I mean, it's just, it's great to look back and really take a look at the legendary times of the business, and especially Florida. For those who didn't see it, Florida was so far ahead of its time for what...
Florida was a great territory.
Yeah.
They had a virtual who's who of the wrestling business that ran through there at one time or another. Every big name you can think of, And Eddie was a brilliant guy to work for. He was he had a great mind for wrestling. He wasn't formally educated or anything like that, but he knew the wrestling business backwards and forwards, inside and out. So much so that other promoters would call Eddie if they got stuck for an idea or something, or painted themselves into a corner. They call Eddie to untangle the mess they got themselves into.
Now, you were around all the great promoters. You were around Vern Gagne when you worked for AWA early on, Vince McMahon and all them. Eddie has to be considered one of the brighter of all those guys in terms of...
Yeah, I don't think anybody, and nobody could have touched Eddie.
Nobody?
Eddie was the smartest man I've ever been around in the business. Learned a lot from him. That's another reason I enjoyed always going back there, was to work with Eddie and be around him and see how he'd do things and that. I was a tremendous fan of Eddie Graham as well.
How about Mike Graham? How did you get along with Mike?
Mike and I always got along well.
Very cool.
Yeah, Mike is a good guy. I see him at different shows nowadays, you know, and we've got a good relationship. We always had. We never had a problem.
Very good, very good. Now, when you went to the WWF, it was the height of when all the best talent, it seemed, were being one person's invasion is another person's acquisition and all that other, whatever kind of euphemism you want to put on it. But they were bringing in the brightest talent that they saw on the scene and really recruiting a lot of them. Did you consider yourself to be blessed to be one of those talents that they chose to come up?
Well, they called me.
Yep.
I didn't call them. They called me. I was in Minneapolis. I just finished somewhere, and before I started someplace else, and I was home in Minneapolis, and they were doing a TV. I believe it was in Madison, Wisconsin, and they asked me to be there. They had a guy for me. I'd never met Bigelow before, and he wanted me to take a look at him and see what I thought and put us together eventually. So I made the trip down to Madison, and we did the TV, and it was called the Battle for Bam Bam is what it was. And they had all the different managers trying to represent him, and finally at the end he called me out, and that started a pretty good relationship with Scott
cool.
and I.
And unfortunately, of course, everybody knows in the past decade we lost Bam Bam.
Yeah, I really miss the guy. I mean, he was a great guy and very, very talented. Did a lot of amazing things in the ring, you know. I don't think to this day there's anybody that took the bumps and did the maneuvers that the big man did, you know.
Not really, no.
But he was a great guy, and I miss him very, very much. I do stay in touch with his ex-wife and his kids. So, you know, I try to stay in touch the best I can.
Excellent.
Now, I miss Scott a great deal.
There was a big departure, though, from your Florida days to your WWF days, is that in that you were a babyface.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, you know. I think if they would have brought us in first as heels and let us get over first as heels and then did the switch, I think we would have been a lot more over than we were, you know.
I think that would have worked better. I mean, Bam Bam had the look that could scare some kids. So, he
had that look, and of course I do too, you know. I got a face with sour milk.
The face for radio, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a little back-assward as far as I was concerned, but
wow.
I guess they had a position. They had a position for a babyface at the time, and they figured Scott would fit it. But I think you know I'm proud of what we did there. We had a great run, you know, teaming with Hogan and all that. You can't get any higher.
Survivor Series, right?
Well, not only Survivor Series, but all around with DiBiase and the Giant, and
I think
DiBiase and Virgil.
Square Garden show too, where you guys.
Sure, absolutely, all over the Horn, you know. So, you know, that was a thrill too. You know, working with Hogan and being on top in Madison Square Garden and things like that. So it wasn't, you know, I don't look at the time as in any bitterness at all. It was a great time. I was very happy to be there, and I just wish we could have extended the run a little bit.
Now, Bam Bam came into WCW, and you did one off with them at Starrcade.
Yes.
Did you enjoy getting back together, and was there any hope that would be something that would last a while?
Well, actually, we did go into the territory thinking we were going to stay a while, and that's when Scott had the knee operations and that. But the Starrcade, that was a match with Barry Windham, correct?
That's correct. Yep, you were feuding.
Yeah, that was a terrific match. People still talk about that one. But it wasn't just a one-off thing. We were going to go in there and work, you know. But as it turns out, Scott needed surgery on his knees, and that's why we didn't stay around that long. Now,
in '93, you retired. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think it was late '92, '93. Yeah.
What made you decide to give it up?
Well, I always told myself, James, that I would be in the wrestling business as long as it was fun. And during that time, there was a lot of chaos going on. WCW, I was working for, it was post-Jim Herd era, but I was there for that too. And it was just not fun for me anymore. It had become a job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can.
The dressing rooms weren't the same. Instead of everybody working for the good of the territory, guys were worried about their own deals, you know, and all of them are hanging their head down, and it was just a really unpleasant place to be. You know, you always want to try to feel the best you can in the dressing room. That's your little home away from home, you know. But it got so at the end that was just not the same.
You think that had to do with just less places to go, or the guys got more competitive? And
No, I don't think so. They're tossing around big bucks, you know. Everybody's worried about their merchandise sales. Somebody was asked to do a job, they'd, you know, hang their head and mope, and you know, they were all concerned instead of being part of a team trying to draw. They were always only worried about their individual positions and not thinking of the team, because it didn't matter if you drew or not. You got that money every week, you know.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what I've had plenty of guests on the show jokingly say. You know, you don't get paid more if you win the match. So.
No, it's the same deal. You know, even the Yankees get beat.
Exactly, yeah.
What can you say? You know, and this is what the business is all about. And if you can't handle losing, you don't belong in the business.
Precisely, and I mean that's what people say, that some of the guys have become marks for the business.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there's been circumstances, you know, in my career, and I'm sure other guys will tell you the same thing, that you'll put a baby face over for 3 or 4 shows in a row, and then it comes time for him to do the honors, and you know, he looks like he looks at you like you just farted or something, you know. You understand what I'm saying? You've done everything to get this guy over, put him over like 3 times in a row, and then finally it's your turn to do whatever, grab the tights or grab the ropes, whatever, and beat the guy. And he looks at you like, you know, you can't be actually asking me to do a job. Crazy.
Now, the business changed a lot of ways, and one of the most obvious one was the change in the role of the manager. After you left, obviously a lot of the girls came in, and it became more of a bikini contest behind.
Yeah, what the hell was my timing on that? Why couldn't I be around when the divas were there?
Well, I mean, it seemed to me that for the longest time, everybody used to say, well, the only manager left was Father James Mitchell.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he's not really doing it as much as he used to either.
Yeah, the only place to see it now is on the Indies, you know.
And what do you think of that? That seems to me it's a shame.
Well, it is a shame because it added another dimension and another element of excitement to a confrontation, you know. Just the mere thought of the guy being at ringside, and you know he's deep down a dirty rat, and the anticipation of actually getting physically involved was always there. So I think it's taken a lot away from the you know, just all around ambience of the angle or the match, you know.
Well, and not only that though, but it was also a good way to introduce characters. Like when you had the House of Humperdink, you could bring a guy in.
Yeah,
you could bring a guy in, and immediately they hated him because he was associated with you.
Yeah, the same way with Gary Hart, you know, or other managers that did the thing. It was, you know, you being the manager had a certain amount of heat, and anybody that they would put with you would glean that heat right off of you and be in a position where, well, people figured, well, if he's with Humperdink, he must be pretty good, you know. So yeah, it did help guys with getting over in a territory, just coming in cold and that. If they put him with me, well, they knew he was an unscrupulous individual, you know.
There you go.